love, of light, of dreams that once captivated all of humanity. But behind the shimmering lights reflecting on the Seine River, there is another Paris, colder, dimmer, and chilling upon closer look. Amidst streets once symbols of art and freedom, now echo car horns, street vendor calls, and the sighs of a city struggling to retain its soul. If you think Paris is still the romantic capital we once saw in movies, perhaps you're not ready for the truth about to be revealed. Because this is Paris of 2025, where the light has changed color. The Paris dream, when the light was still clear. Sunset falls upon the Seine River, the water reflecting the last rays of sunlight, as if someone had sprinkled gold on a mirror. From the ancient stone bridges spanning the river, footsteps sound, blending with the melodious music of a violinist by the Pont des Arts. The scent of toasted bread, melted butter, and freshly brewed coffee spreads through the air, mingling with the warm breath of the city. Paris in that moment is not just a location, it's a feeling, a spell, a collective memory that all of humanity once dreamed of. In the hazy twilight, each window lights up like small lamps illuminating the city's soul. At the Riverside Cafe, lovers whisper, glasses of wine shimmering with amber light. The group of artists sits sketching quickly on paper, trying to capture the colors of the afternoon before it fades into night. Calls, the gentle rustle of oak leaves on the water. All combine into the gentle background music of a Paris that one sees only once in a lifetime but remembers forever. As memory, Paris is not a city, yet. People come here not just to see the Eiffel Tower but to find a part of their lost emotions. The feeling of slowing down, of being loved, of seeing the world through innocent eyes. Here, art and love are not just concepts, they exist on every street corner. A painting by Monet might hang in a small bistro. A poem by Paul Eluard might be recited amidst the bustling traffic. Paris lives on emotion, and everything in this city is created to be seen, remembered, and loved. It's the red geraniums spilling over the Luxembourg Palace, the old Shakespeare and Company bookstore selling books colored by time. It's the distant gaze of the waiter when hearing jazz playing from the radio. When night falls, the Eiffel Tower lights up, thousands of bulbs flashing like distant stars descending to Earth. Under the purple twilight sky, Paris pulsates like the beating heart of Europe. From above, the city stretches like a carpet of light, where each lamp is an untold love story. In that moment, everything seemingly incomplete suddenly becomes whole. Paris of light, of life's rhythm, of dreams, so perfect, so beautiful, so worth dreaming of. But every dream has a dark side that few dare to face directly. And only when stepping through that curtain of light do we begin to see the real Paris. Where light is both magic and a veil hiding the reality waiting to be revealed. When you set foot on the ground, the real Paris begins. Just step out of the dream, and you'll see a different Paris. At the foot of the Eiffel Tower, crowds jostle like an unending river. The continuous clicking of cameras blends with the calls of street vendors. The smell of car exhaust, fast food, and garbage mixed together, heavy in the air. Under the Trocadero Square, tourists stand shoulder to shoulder, everyone holding up their phones, trying to capture the perfect moment. But no one truly sees each other. The Eiffel Tower appears magnificent from afar, but up close, the gray steel is covered with traces of time. At the tower's base, dozens of men lay out small cloths, hanging with sparkling keychains and cheap Eiffel Tower models. Some pretend to offer free bracelets, smiling warmly, then demand money once you put them on. Others hold out donation papers claiming to help poor children or the disabled, but in reality, it's just an act. Police occasionally appear, the crowd disperses, then returns as if nothing happened. The surrounding noise never stops. Ride-hailing calls, people calling out in various languages, loudspeaker announcements blending with pop music from a nearby tour bus. Continuous camera flashes make the entire space seem covered in artificial light. Eyes, Paris still sparkles, but if you stand still and observe longer, you the cold gaze of security guards and the impatience of locals trying to get through the crowd to go home. Here, everything resembles a performance. Everyone has their role. Vendors smile for their livelihood. Tourists pretend to be happy, even after being pickpocketed. And Paris still stands there, like a grand backdrop for thousands of photos passing by each day. No one can distinguish what is truth and what is merely a veneer for the tourism picture. Paris is no longer a wall painting, but more like an outdoor film set where everyone plays a role and sometimes even forgets themselves. The scam on the boulevard, where dreams are stolen. On the boulevard near the Eiffel Tower, street magic performances began. Free paper cups, a small ball, and hands as fast as lightning. The man controlling the game laughs while moving his hands at unbelievable speed. Even as eager tourists jostle to place money, thinking they can win. But no matter which cup you choose, the ball disappears, the money is swept away, and the crowd cheers and applauds. They don't know that most of them are extras in a perfectly staged play. In another corner, a few young girls approach, holding out a bracelet woven from thread. A gift for you from Paris. They flash bright smiles, but just seconds after the string is wrapped around your wrist. The gentle bracelet suddenly becomes a demand, their eyes turning cold. If you refuse, they follow you, tugging at your hand, even blocking your way. A few others pretend to collect donations, holding a pre-signed sheet and a coin purse. They invite you to contribute a little kindness, but are actually exploiting the innocence of hearts that believe in humanity. Even though visitors are surrounded by gazes, whispers, the clinking of coins, creating a strange sound, both bustling and frightening. You feel like you're being watched, trapped in an inescapable game. Police stand somewhere, occasionally appearing, but everything returns to normal after just a few minutes. The actors take turns and the game continues. Why do these scams persist? Perhaps because tourism in Paris has become a massive consumption machine, where people come to buy experiences rather than truly live them. Beneath the glamorous surface lies a vast gap between those who come to spend and those who come to survive. When beauty is commercialized, trust also loses its value. Amid the laughter and cheers, perhaps what is stolen most in Paris is not wallets but illusions. The neighborhood not for tourists, the Paris of others. Just a few minutes away by train from the center, you'll see a completely different world. Paris, resplendent with golden lights and luxurious cafes, disappears behind the closed doors of the train car. When the doors open, there's no accordion music, no smell of garlic bread. Instead, there's a cold wind, walls covered in graffiti and gray, old buildings as if forgotten. Here, Paris no longer speaks tourist French. People speak Arabic, Lingala, Swahili. Children play on the sidewalks, among uncollected trash bags. An old church stands silently among the buildings, its dome quiet like a witness of time. The church bell rings briefly, then is overwhelmed by the prayer call from a nearby mosque. The two sounds intersect in the air, like two out-of-sync heartbeats trying to coexist. No one looks at you with lowering eyes. Passers-by move quickly, hands in pockets, eyes downcast. Small eateries selling grilled meat and pita bread emit a rich aroma, but the atmosphere remains heavy and wary. Here, there are no tourists, no selfies, no one talks about the glamorous Paris. This is the part of Paris that the world doesn't see or deliberately ignores. A few neighborhoods resemble small African towns in the heart of Europe, with hair salons, phone shops, and imported food stores, all carrying memories of distant lands. The people here came seeking opportunity but ended up trapped in the cycle of poverty. They exist within Paris, but Paris doesn't seem to belong to them. This blend is both beautiful and sad, reflecting a changing France. Tolerant but weary, diverse yet full of cracks. In a place once considered the heart of European civilization, the boundary between us and them becomes more fragile than ever. The so-called identity is melting, blending into hundreds of voices, thousands of different faces. As the train turned back to the center, the Eiffel Tower reappeared, distant and cold. Its lights still shone brightly, but now you knew that not everyone in this city could see them every night. When the cultural map of Paris was torn apart, the light was no longer enough to share with everyone. A city of fear, where Parisians lock their own doors. Nightfall in Paris no longer sparkles like in postcards. On the boulevards, police patrol with body armor, guns on their shoulders, and cold eyes. Surveillance cameras mounted on every street corner, lights scanning every face. Under neon lights, the city appeared more like a gloomy documentary than a dreamy place. People walk quickly, avoiding interaction, clutching their bags tightly when passing through crowds. Shops close early, metal shutters pulled down, secured with double chains. The numbers tell a clearer story than any words. In 2024, over 40,000 sexual assaults were recorded across France. On average, more than 100 cases occur each day, many of them right in Paris. Over 7,000 pickpocketing incidents, thousands of snatched sacks, and countless cases of tourists being scammed, drugged, or threatened in public places. Parisians whisper to each other that if you show your phone, consider it gone. Police are present but cannot be everywhere. The city is vast, the population dense, the suburbs complex, security forces exhausted from overload. And the people are gradually losing faith. In a cafe near Gare du Nord station, the owner sighed. We no longer look at each other with friendly eyes. Here, everyone is vigilant. The cause lies not only in crime. It's the result of years of immigration crisis, unemployment, and growing wealth disparity. Paris has become a place where prosperity and poverty coexist on the same street. On one side are luxury fashion boutiques, on the other are damp temporary shelters. When faith in justice and order crumbles, fear seeps into every breath. On the subway, no one talks, everyone looks down at their phones. Wearing headphones, avoiding eye contact. Parisians no longer smile at strangers. The city once called the City of Light now clothes itself in a thick layer of security. Safety no longer comes from people but from fear. Paris is still beautiful, still alive, but the windows closed earlier than before. The silence of faith when churches become museums. On Sunday morning, church bells ring through the gray rooftops. But that sound no longer draws a long procession of people as in old memories. At the entrance, metal fences guide visitors along the tour route. Bilingual signs indicate the entrance, service times, and even admission fees for some exhibition areas. Paris has hundreds of churches large and small, but many places look more like museums than spiritual homes. Inside, golden candlelight flickers on stone walls. The familiar scent of pine resin and candle smoke remains the same. But the wooden pews before the sanctuary lack the familiar bowed heads. Occasionally, a group of tourists stops to look up at the dome. The sound of shoes on stone floors creating a steady rhythm, mixed with the whispers of guides. Faith is not lost, but seems framed within the tour itinerary. Enter, take a photo, and leave. Then in another church, when the doors open, music suddenly bursts forth. An African choir sings hymns with warm, deep voices, clapping in rhythm with small drums. Faces brighten under simple lighting, the atmosphere warm and vibrant, like a warm stream against the city's cold wind. Two pictures placed side by side, one a silent heritage, the other a budding faith. Paris, amid changes, still has seeds quietly taking root. Outside, the call to prayer from a mosque gently touches the noon air. The intersecting paths of faith create an invisible map. The sound of bells, prayers, and songs rise together, not canceling each other out but layering into the soundscapes of the era. This diversity is beautiful, but it also raises questions. As old communities gradually thin out, will new communities find common ground? And when religion steps back from public life, what will fill the city's spiritual void? Perhaps Paris hasn't lost faith but merely changed its tone, from Latin hymns to rhythmic melodies. From packed churches on major holidays to warm, small services in suburbs. But amid this transformation, Parisians still seek something simple, a feeling of refuge. As long as the bells still ring, even if few respond, hope is not extinguished. The issue isn't the building, but what hearts remain within it. France and the broken mirror, when values are reflected distortedly. Paris is no exception, it's just a magnifying mirror of all France, a country looking back at itself. But the reflection is now distorted. On the evening news, people talk much about crime, protests, and public anger toward the government. But behind it all lies a deeper feeling. France is losing what once made it great. The slogans of liberty, equality, and fraternity are still carved on administrative buildings' walls. But on the streets, people no longer believe in them. On one side are the wealthy living behind iron gates in the 7th and 8th districts. On the other are millions of immigrant workers crammed into suburban housing. They all live in Paris, but not in the same world. Strikes, riots, or small street conflicts are just symptoms of a deeper, simmering illness. Social distance has become a real wall. Young French people lose faith in the future, the elderly reminisce about the past. And the government stands in between, trying to keep everything from collapsing. In Marseille, Lille, Nice, stories once repeated themselves. Ethnic conflicts, juvenile crime, and insecurity spread like shadows. There's no clear boundary between the civilized center and the dangerous suburbs. Everything is blending, creating a France both beautiful and fractured. But blaming only Paris or immigrants would be a mistake. The bigger problem lies in the West itself, which once believed civilization, democracy, and human rights could protect people from all chaos. Now, those values are being tested. They look into the mirror of the age and what they see is no longer pride, but intricate cracks reflecting confusion. France still stands, Paris still shines, but the light is different. It no longer radiates from faith but merely reflects a broken mirror, where all values waver in a flash of time. When the dream collapses, Paris looks into its memories. Yet, in the less traveled alleys, Paris still keeps some old habits. A news vendor adds a chair for a stranger, an artist teaches the gilded chord for free to a neighbor's child. A bakery leaves a baguette at the door of an elderly person living alone. Beneath the dust of the era, kindness occasionally flashes like a small flame. S. Inc. with Edith Piaf. And with the humming sound of the accordion on Montmartre Street. Small cafes were where painters sketched on napkins, writers penned their first drafts. And lovers argued then embraced under yellow lights. People could live their whole lives just to see Paris once, then carry that image with them to the end. Paris back then wasn't noisy. It breathed softly like smoke mingling in the air. People walked slowly, looking at each other long enough to realize they were living in something beautiful. Everything seemed to have a soul, from the steaming coffee cup, the moss-covered wall, to the bells echoed through ancient tiled roofs. Paris was once the passion of art, of love, and of freedom. Now, music is drowned out by the sound of traffic horns, street music blending with street vendors' calls. And the cafes that were once meeting places for intellectuals are now just check-in spots for tourists. Beauty is still there, but it feels lost amidst the rush and fatigue. Paris is like a woman who remains beautiful, but her eyes no longer sparkle with old dreams. Occasionally on a misty morning, you might still catch a glimpse of the old Paris. An old man reading a newspaper by the window, a flower girl cycling across the bridge. The sound of a guitar echoing from the subway station basement. But that moment passes like the final breath of an old song. The city still lives, still shines, but is no longer innocent. Today's Paris is where people come to take photos, not to dream. But the value that once made up its soul now lies deep in memory, waiting for someone to listen. Paris still breathes, but its heartbeat is different from before. Paris was once a poem that the whole world knew by heart. The lights, the streets, the horns, a very human silence. Amid changes that make us unsteady, there are still gentle moments. The smell of warm bread, the sound of a guitar echoing from the subway, the nod from a stranger at a small cafe. Paris is not perfect, not comfortable. But few places make us reflect on ourselves so clearly. Perhaps the light has changed color, but it's in that very hue that we realize. Love for a city doesn't lie in postcards, but in how we walk through its shadows.